Today's podcast is proudly sponsored by Awaza, the name behind some of the most trusted pond equipment in the hobby. If you're serious about koi or looking to upgrade your pond, consider looking at Awaza equipment. The Profi-Clear drums, water pumps and systems are designed to handle serious pond loads with minimal faff. And if your goal is crystal clear water, then look no further. Awaza allows you to enjoy your fish rather than just constantly firefighting your setup. And to be honest, it's the sort of gear I wish I used from day one. Big thanks to Awaza for supporting this podcast and for supporting ponds across the UK with gear that just works. Hi and welcome back to the Koi Perspective podcast. I'm delighted we've got another special guest this week. We've got Matt from Clearwater Koi. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Joe. Thank you very much. Good evening, Will. How are you?
Yeah, not so bad. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to actually get to meet you. Seen you on the old podcast for a long time now, so it's nice to finally meet you. Obviously, I've met Joe a few times.
Oh, thank you.
He's not really important.
He's a bit boring. Do you know, I'm surprised you guys are in t-shirts now, because up here I'm getting really, like, my office is freezing. I'm at that point where it's more like keeping the pond hot. The house is absolutely freezing tonight.
Sitting here.
The temperatures are dropping now, aren't they?
They are. The winter's coming.
It's so refreshing time of year for a
thing is, down south it's still quite warm. But
fair enough.
I won't lie, we have had the heating on for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I can't fault you.
Yeah.
Soft southerners, as they say.
Well, I'd say I'm a hard northerner, but yeah, I'm not sure many people would buy that one. But no, I've wanted to have you, Matt. We've been speaking for a while about having you on here. You've had probably the most interesting couple of years in koi, to be honest. Like, from somebody I want to interview in koi, you're not just a koi dealer in that respect. You've been involved in a lot of events, which we'll come on to. But let's go right back to the start for people that are maybe tuning in for the first time and not met you before. So whereabouts are you based, and how did you get into koi?
So we're based in Ashford in Kent. We're literally 2 minutes off the M20. The M20 is quite synonymous with Operation Brock or Operation Stack. So when we have border issues going to France, they stack all the lorries on our motorway, which makes it very interesting, to say the least. Right. So yeah, we're down in Ashford in Kent. I got into the hobby back in the mid-90s. Yeah, mid-90s, about 96. I had friends that had a pond. One of my dad's friends had a pond. I moved right near him. And that basically just kick-started the hobby for me, and it's just gone on from there, really.
So what about it was making you want to become like a dealer? Because obviously, did you keep koi before you were a dealer?
Yeah, so keeping koi, as I say, from 96. And along the way, back in the days when we used to have forums, and used to have the old magazines, which to me, they were the best days when you had a decent koi magazine. And not that there isn't a decent koi magazine out there at the moment. Obviously, there's an amazing magazine, World of Niche Koi, but magazines and forums, and you get to meet people. We didn't ever obviously have podcasts and teams and that back then. And then you'd meet up at koi dealers, or we meet at the National, or meet at the Southeast, wherever. And I got introduced to Ken up at the Koi Collection and have become very good friends with Ken. Went to Japan several times, got the bug, and just like the way Ken does his business, and learnt a lot from him, and sort of it just snowballed from there. He gave me an idea, and we just thought, if we can become a little private dealer down here in Kent, when I say private, obviously professional. Yeah. And just to sort of pay our trips to go to Japan, because I love Japan, and that was all it was for, just to subsidise our trip to Japan.
So, like, in the south where you're based, it seems like there's a real haven of like koi keepers down there. Like, there's just so many koi keepers in that neck of the woods, or a lot of koi dealers, a lot of like koi heritage, some of the older, more established like koi dealers in that area. Is that true, or is that just like an old koi tale?
No, there is. You obviously got Clearwater Barn. They've been going for an awful long time. And then obviously Darren and Drew. They've got. I used to buy fish off them when they were together. And then there's a few other independents around the area. You've got Terry. Terry's very dear to me, good friend of mine down at Koi Us. So you've got your obviously independent dealers. And they tend to have their core, well, like all dealers, I suppose, they have their core customer base. Mm-hmm. And we've just built our core customer base off ourselves. We've probably picked up a few of the customers that would go to these other dealers. Just gone from there, really, from strength to strength.
So, like, in terms of this year, or probably last year as well, a lot of people will have seen on social media, and if you haven't, I'd recommend you go check it out, and I'll probably put some little images on here that you've put on Facebook and stuff. Last year you did the Chelsea Flower Show, and I think the year before that as well you did it as well, hadn't you?
That's right. It's way back in it was latter part of 2022.
Yeah.
A hobbyist local to me. He's a professional hosta grower, field plants. He'd been wanting to do take fish to the RHS Chelsea Flower Show for a few years. He's meant to have done it just for a lockdown. Long story short, was going to do a pond with some fish with another dealer. It didn't happen. He came to me. Originally, it was just to set the pond up for him and move his fish, but it snowballed over sort of a 4-week period from actually building the pond and also supplying the fish. And we was also on site. So that was back in 2023. And it was also the first time in 115 years of the RHS Chelsea Flower Show that they had animals in the Great Pavilion. Wow. So the Great Pavilion, you have to be invited into there. So with Paul's prestige and years of being a hosta grower and shower, he just conjoined his hobby of koi, came to me. We could give him what he wanted, and that was it, really. Just went from there. So we got a gold medal. So it was Brookfield Plants, and with us, obviously, providing the pond, and we set it all up, which was very interesting, to say the least, especially that part of London.
So what goes into doing that kind of exhibition? Because I bet the majority of it is just planning and execution, right? But surely there's more to it than just that. Days and nights and evenings.
So on the plant side, that's nothing to do with us, because I know nothing about plants. I know a little bit about bonsai, but that's as far as it goes. So the first year, 23, was basically a stab in the dark, help him out, and it was absolutely amazing. It was, and what we did find from there as well is, we had a few leaflets out for the National Koi Show. Had a lot of interest. People that had ponds, people come up to us and ask us questions. They might have had problems with herons. They might have had a few fish healthcare issues. But it was a real draw at the RHS Chelsea 23. So that was it, and we thought it was a bit of a one-off. Then there was South East Koi Club had their usual pond visits. And a very good friend of mine, Darren, who I met years ago through the forums, and he also helps me build and worked with me on the Chelsea setup. He had his pond open, and we got talking. Paul said, "I would like to do this. I'd like to do that." And on the way home, I made a few phone calls, and we decided to, instead of having an exhibit where you walked around like we did in 23, we had an exhibit where you actually walked through. And with my familiar, with my own family situation, we decided to make a fully accessible exhibit. So it wasn't just for people with physical disability, but there's also for sensory, people with sight impairment. So we basically built a stand. The reason I've gone into that much detail is we started planning it from the August, and obviously Chelsea Flower Show is in the May, and then we had pretty much a month in our warehouse of constructing the actual physical stand, because not only did it have a pond, it had a traditional Japanese bridge, it had a stream, it had a receiver pond. So we started, and we was having weekly meetings pretty much from the November, weekly design meetings, talking to our suppliers, Burton's Aquatics. They helped us with the design, the structural design of the pond, which was fantastic. And then we just called in a few favours from other people within the hobby. And we also had to, because 23 was the first year, we had to then, because it was against the rules to have pets at the RHS Chelsea Flower Show. Right. So I had to have a Teams meeting with the top people of RHS Chelsea in the January of 24. And basically, they interviewed me and asked me, it was all stuff about health and safety, risk assessments, method statements, toolbox talks, Will's disease, all the usual. They had to tick a few boxes, I believe, to go back to the committee and say, look, we've done it last year. And from that, I believe they've now changed the rules of the RHS Chelsea Flower Show to let some animals into the flower show.
Wow, that's crazy. And quite awesome to say that them amount of years of heritage in that show to be the first to do it. I mean, quite a proud moment, right?
It was, and considering way back when, I actually am a qualified chef. So many years ago, when you're at college, like in any sort of trade you're trying to, you get offered work experience, don't you? So we were all offered to do waiting at the RHS Chelsea Flower Show. So
Wow.
it was probably now 32 years ago. So I actually went there as a young lad, and I actually met the Queen. She went walking past me as I was going around with champagne. So
Very nice.
to then come full circle all these years later, and then to top it off at RHS Chelsea 24, we actually got to meet the King and talk to the King. I know not everyone's a royalist, but I personally am. And it was amazing because I fortunately met him many years ago when I was doing my chefing. And it's a bit of a long story, but he came onto our exhibit, was very interested in the fish. Paul was then telling him that we'd been to Japan the previous autumn and got the fish and explained about them. Was obviously talking about the hostas. The King walked through our exhibit and had all the paparazzi taking him as he walked over the bridge.
Wow.
But I managed to get something in. So when I was 18, I was fortunate enough to do some work experience for the royal household as a chef. And I met him and he gave me a gift. So I managed to say to him as we were talking, I said, it's been a long time since we met, Your Majesty. And he went, "Oh, right." And I then said to him when I'd met him and what he'd given me, and he was really taken back. And then what was, I suppose, the icing on the cake furthermore was a good friend of ours, Stuart Claxton, the Koi advisor. He actually was at Chelsea. So part of our interview was, although we obviously do our own water checks and keep an eye on the fish, I said I'd get an independent person in. So Stuart came in, done all the the checks on the fish and checks on water. Stuart was on a call out to a very prestigious country house. About 2 months later, and part of the conversation when I met the King was he said to me, "Can you get me some fish when you next go to Japan?" Because he keeps koi carp as well. So
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's mad.
So he said, "Could you get me some koi?" Yes, you can. I can, Your Majesty. So anyway, Stuart bumps into him 6-8 weeks later, where it was, and he was at a pond visit, and someone come over. It was obviously police. He had his started asking what he was doing because he had all these cases out with his test kits and microscope. He explained to this head of police what he's doing. Next thing you know, guy comes along with a green jacket, and it was the King. So he started saying to him, "Well, I've got fish." And Stuart, being Stuart, said, "I know, Your Majesty." He said that the conversation went on, and long story short, he brought up Chelsea, and Stuart said, "Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to meet you, but a pal of mine met you." And the King said to him, "Oh, is that the chap who I gave a present to when he was young?" He remembered the conversation. So
That's
for
amazing.
him, the thousands of people he meets, for him to remember a conversation, a couple of months beforehand with me at Chelsea, he also then said to Stuart, "Tell him I still want the fish."
Oh, wow. Do you know that would make an awesome... I mean, you could go to Japan, tell them, "Oh, these are for the King in England."
Well, I have already done that in Japan, but you try getting through. So I've tried several routes. I've written to the palace, and unfortunately I've come to a bit of a deadlock. So if any of your kind listeners, viewers have got any contacts,
Wow.
I'm more than happy to, if they can help me. But he generally wants some fish. So I'd already put a few calls into some of the big people out in Japan, and Izumir being one of them. And they were like, "Yeah," I showed the pictures, and they said, "Just let us know." So what a privilege it would be for one or two Japanese breeders to supply the King
Definitely
of Britain. So if any of your listeners or viewers have got any, can pull any strings, then please contact Joe.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah.
If you ever need a prestigious journalist to document that, I'm sure there's one in the Joe. Yeah,
we can find one of them. Yeah,
that's cool. That's really cool.
That's
Thanks,
such
Will.
an awesome story.
Definitely.
So it's a long story, but it means an awful lot.
It's nice to listen to.
No, I think people will love that. And so that's all come from really like pond building. And I know your other business as well that you run is construction as well. Is that your passion for building ponds, or do you still get the butterflies when you buy in koi?
So my main business is obviously construction. I run a building company. The fish is the reason I do that. I explained earlier, so I could go to Japan because I love Japan. But for me, it's for my mental state of mind. You hear about a lot of people why they have ponds, but for me, I don't play rugby anymore. It's my hobby. It's my passion. So for me to have any involvement, so I would work 7 days a week if I could get away with it. But Mrs. Ball won't allow that, and quite rightly so. But yeah, anything with fish. I mean, we're just rebuilding one of our outside sales vats at the moment, and a couple of my guys are talking to me, and they said, "You could do this every day, couldn't you?" I went, "Yes, I could. I really could." But maybe that in the future. I wish I could do it full time. I do,
Yeah.
but
Just to clarify, is this construction purely pond based?
no, just general buildings. So
Right, fair
electrical, gas,
Yeah, that's fair enough.
general buildings. We do anything. But it's great when you do get pond bills because we've got our own plant. Obviously
Yeah.
from the health and safety side for the CDM regs. We tick all the boxes. We've got all the insurances, so it's great when someone comes to you and wants a pond built or refurbished. We've got the tools, we've got the estimating tools. We can get a price through quite quickly. I personally manage the job. A lot of the time, I'll do the filter installs with Darren. That's something I'll have my guys do the general groundworks, block work, rendering, etc. But when we come to install, say drum filters or Nexuses, whatever the customers want, then I normally do all the install with Darren because then I know it's done what I believe the right way. That way, if there's any questions down the line and something might, that might be some teething problems, then they can easily give me a call. I can pop out there and I know what I'm dealing with rather than going to a job and going, why did they do this or why did they do that?
Makes sense. Yeah.
So it's a great feeling. And seeing someone, we recently put a couple of TF700 Burton drums and filters in a 20,000 gallon pond, and put a window in there as well. The family was saying, can we pay for the window because Dad was not going to have the window now, so the kids pay for it. The grandkids, nice. they've now got a chair and they sit. It's like a really big oval pond, and the customer and his wife now sit by the window. The children sit by the window, and they hadn't got round to sort of finish it up. We put coping stones on it, a few little extras here and there, and it's great. And I quite often pop in just as I'm passing down one of the other motorways, and I pop in, and they've actually got a log cabin out the back. And we've had a few jokes about me moving in. But it's great seeing someone get the most out of their pond and their fish. So any part we can play in that, it's just great.
So, from a business perspective, I'm interested. You do the Chelsea Flower Show and you plan it from August through May. You're not paid to do that. The royal family is not paying you to go there and put your exhibit up.
No.
But from a business point of view, was it a good thing for Clearwater Koi to do that? Did you get leads from that? Were people interested in ponds?
So, no, we got no leads from it, and that wasn't what it was about. The first year, 23, as I said, was to help Paul out, and it was amazing. Yeah. Great experience, learning what lack of time you have to set. It's not just the physical days and hours of setting the exhibits up. You have to book in to bring your vehicles in to drop off. You can't stay in. You can't stay in the pavilion. You have to seeing how the logistics work. But with our project management side of what we do, that just fits in fairly well. In fairness to 2024, because it was such a big exhibit and because I put a few phone calls in, we actually got some sponsorship that paid maybe around about the third of the costs. So, the company called Nimbus Disability, they're friends of ours. We met them through our volunteering through Carfest, the music festival that Chris Evans set up. And they do a thing called the Access Card that gets you sort of to the front of queue if you've got disabilities and whatnot. And they kindly sponsored us about a third of the costs, which pretty much paid for most of the materials, most of the labour, but all our time going up there, putting it, you get technically 2 days for us to build it, but we had 2.5 days. The good thing, what I did do, when the RHS took the gardens over, I went up there with a site level before there's any work going on any roadways, and I worked out all the levels, so it just gave me a little bit of a heads up so that when we came to re-erect our stand, we knew what our levels were. Yeah, it's not about the money. I spoke to a lot of people, the national people like Adam Beyer, who was obviously on the other day, and he said, what you've done, it was really good for the koi hobby and the koi industry. A lot of people don't realise there's so much with the fish, and you got on the first few days you've got a lot of famous people with a lot of money. They turn up and they're looking at fish at 70, 80, 90 cm long, and they are just a wow factor.
Definitely.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was for us. It was never about. It was all about the experience, and I say the not 2024 because it was a fully accessible. And one of the nicest things for me, we done a bit with the Royal British Legion, had some veterans and their families come in. But the nicest thing for me was my dad bringing my son up, who uses a wheelchair and he wears a prosthetic. And for him to stand on the bridge with me and my dad and then just really say to me, Dad, this is really, really good. What you've done is amazing. You know,
Very nice.
For me, that was
Rewarding.
That was the pinnacle. For my son to say that, you know, for your children to be proud of what you're doing. You're always proud of your children as they get older.
Of course.
For your children to be proud of what you've done and achieved was very, very special. Yeah, very, very special.
Better than a few leads.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
I mean, just to take, what sort of impact did that have on your business? Not necessarily financially, but maybe like publicity wise. Because, and I'll do a bit of explanation behind this. I was fortunate a few years ago. I've been to the Holland Koi show 3 times now, and that for me, I think, regardless of the actual koi and the koi show, I think the event is amazing because it's in some astonishing gardens. There's more than just koi happening. There's more there to do. It's truly a multiple day event. So I don't know so much about the new venue, but the old venue, it was astonishing. And I'm involved with the Great British Koi Show, which is a forever growing koi show. And we have many conversations of how do we expand? How do we go bigger? And where is the next step? Now, I think maybe we need to look at things, not so much koi, but like how could we be involved with other external factors, and how could that help the hobby? So I'm curious, not so much financial, but how else did this benefit you as a business?
It's hard to say. Other than speaking to people in the industry, we haven't had any jobs come off of it.
Right.
So, and that was never what it was about. It was about an experience, about raising the profile of the hobby to people that don't know as much. For us personally, we're in talks with a couple of other exhibitors. There's something potentially might be happening next year, which I can't say too much about. So there might be something that comes off of it. Putting on those sort of shows, we know how hard koi shows, and Will, you mentioned the Great British, how much, all the volunteers, but all those volunteers, without the volunteers, you'd be no shows. We
definitely.
know that.
Yeah, definitely.
And for us, it was, I had friends helping that volunteered. They came along. They didn't get paid. They done it because they love fish. They love the koi. They love koi, and they for some reason, they like me and want to help me. So it's hard to say, but I hear what you're saying. But I've never been to the Holland show, and it's something I want to do. I know it falls on the weekend of the North Koi show, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. But I think if you're talking about what could a koi dealer get out of a show, I do think the Scotland Koi show, what they've done, conjoining it with Garden Show, I think that's the way forward. I think in any sort of hobby club, you have to keep being diverse in any business. If you carry on doing the same thing all the time, you can become stagnant. So I think, especially with the rising costs, certain koi shows for us, if we've got to travel, just same thing for people coming down south from up north. The amount of overhead you got with travel, expenditure and your hotels and whatnot. So I think if koi shows could maybe look at what the Scottish done and maybe start getting talks with maybe garden shows, you potentially not only are you going to get some of your costs down, you may not, but you're definitely going to have a more of a draw. I know obviously the Shosha boys done the Rutland Koi show. It was nice to see that they'd done a different type of garden show compared to what we'd done, but in the same vein. Mike's put a lot out there on social media how positive it was for him. So maybe the koi shows could maybe watch some of the people involved with the koi shows. I know you are with the Great British. You speak to people like us, speak to them and Mike, see what works, and maybe test the water and speak to a garden show. I think locally with us down here in Kent, with the All England, that might be something that could be talked about.
I think what needs to come is, say for instance, like the Scotland Koi show, let's say, which I went up and did a video on. That was really cool because that was a big gardening event. So they basically had the bonsai club, they had the goldfish club, They had the Orchid Society or something, and they held all of these shows within the garden show. So the koi weren't the main event; it was a part of everything going on there. And actually, to families in Scotland, the idea of seeing all of these things rather than just koi is maybe more appealing to visit. So there's the chance to, one, make a bigger event, and two, get more people through the door.
Well,
Definitely.
I suppose if you're going to travel and you're going to be paying for hotels or
Yeah.
like coming further afield, really making that journey, I suppose if there's other attractions there, people would be like, yeah, we'll spend the hotel because we'll spend all day there on that bit, and we'll spend all day the next day on that bit, and it's a weekend event rather than
100%.
And especially with parents with young children, you know, you look at the I mean, I haven't been to the Great British, but the BKKS and the All England, you know, there's so much more now for the kids to do, whether it be face painting, bouncy castle.
Yeah.
Not, you used to just get the ice cream van, which I know I know Paul loves his ice cream, but you need something. And if you can go to you go to a koi show and you're a hobbyist and you might be lucky enough to take your wife with you, and then you've then got childcare issues, or you take the children, and kids get bored. But if you've got something like a bouncy castle or other stuff, and it's not just the children, obviously, you know, as you say, with the orchids and everything else that at the Scotland Koi Show, if you've got lots of other things to interest people, then a happy wife is a happy life, as they say. Yeah. I know not every hobbyist is male, so I do apologise. you know the sentiment there. If the other half is happy and the kids are happy, then everybody's happy.
Makes for a great weekend. No, definitely.
Yeah. And as you said, Will, you know, when you're spending that money, so for us to go to the National, with the cost of the pitch and whatnot, travelling up there, we went up there a couple of days earlier, set up, you know, you're talking thousands of pounds.
Of course.
So, you know, if even a hobbyist, you know, they're probably going to go away for maybe 2 nights, they're going to be spending probably 300-400 quid. Whereas if they're taking the other half of them and the kids, then the hotel's probably not going to cost any more money.
I think the other thing that people have got to think about as well is, like, if you're a koi dealer, or, you know, you're a koi pond builder, or you're a manufacturer of koi goods, let's just say, like, Japanese gardening is at probably its most fashionable peak that it has ever been at. You know, in terms of everything, people are going to be sick of me saying it on this podcast, but everything Japanese now is in fashion. Like, we've just seen a Japanese anime film, which is just like absolute, like, with a budget, I think 30 million, that's done like nearly 700 million in box office. It's ridiculous, like outperformed any other movie. And you go and actually sit down and watch it in Japanese, and it's got subtitles on, and I found it amazing as well. But, like, Japanese stuff is just so fashionable, and in this country, I think if we want to do koi dealing correctly and we want to market it to the audience, then now is the best time. But it kind of does feel like with koi shows that we're talking, like, a koi show is so much for somebody who's quite experienced in koi. And to me, there's not a right lot there for people who are maybe garden pond enthusiasts. And so you go there and you're looking at 90 cm fish. And I know I find that interesting. And to a lot of novices, they go, wow, that's really cool. But whether or not that wow factor is enough to get them out of bed on a Sunday to go to the koi show, I'm not sure yet.
Well, I think it's fair to say the majority of koi keepers in this country are garden features. Do you know what I mean? It's not the, like you just commented on, they're not there for the show winners and GCs and actual competing. They're there because of the aesthetic reason of how it looks in the garden, and bonsais and aces and water features and stuff like that. So like it is obviously not untouched, but there's potentially not a good representation for that side of the fish keeping. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to go on for that bit further, where the costs, you know, electric and water and whatnot are cost so much now, there's a lot of people that have given up koi keeping but gone to goldfish. So now we know the rules of BKKS, what is and isn't allowed. I'm going to put something out there. Maybe, as you touched on earlier, you had the Goldfish Society. What's to say you could have the Goldfish Society at a koi show and have goldfish showing as well?
100%. And
then, you know, I mean, I sell fancy goldfish, and I know a few other koi dealers do, not just Tamasabas, but you can get more interest. Someone might not want to pay, I don't know, £35 or £1,000 for a koi, but they will spend £5, £10 for a fish. Do you know what I mean? So it's a good idea, Joe. And, maybe koi clubs need to start, or shows need to start looking at and say, well, how can we be a bit more diverse? Let's dip our toe and try something and see if it works. Because you'll definitely get dealers involved, because most dealers in the areas sell goldfish as well, or your standard fish pond pumps and fountains and whatnot. So it would be good to see someone try that.
Fair enough. I think I wouldn't go this weekend. Say, for instance, Will, you said to me, there's a goldfish club this weekend. I wouldn't get out of bed to go there, personally. The goldfish doesn't quite interest me. But if it's at a koi show, I would spend 1-2 hours there to look around and see. If, say, there's a judging, I'd like to see how they judge goldfish,
Of course.
That would interest me, but is it enough to get me there to just go to a goldfish?
The point on that, so talk about goldfish again, I know a lot of people, as I did, had a normal standard garden pond with goldfish.
Yeah.
When we were kids.
Yeah, definitely.
And every spring, your dad would take the fish out, take the water out, jet wash everything down, put it up with fresh water. It looked lovely for a week or two and then go green again. Now, if we're going to make the hobby last longer and get more people involved, it's the youngsters. And some youngsters, again, don't necessarily like koi. They might like a goldfish. They might have a tank in their bedroom, and that's what can, and I know does, get a lot of people hooked with the hobby, and they might then go on to koi later on. So I definitely think there's some mileage in one or more koi shows trying something like that with the goldfish.
Yeah.
And dare I say, longfin koi as well.
I
know, but I'm going to sound I'm going to sound say the wrong thing here now, but predominantly when we sell, the longfin koi, it is predominantly women that buy them. The men are there going, I don't really want that in my pond, but go on then. Or their kids, a lot of kids like a longfin koi. So again, happy wife, happy life. And if the wife or the kids are buying little longfin fish and the dad's there, and everybody's happy. So
100%,
they have got to try some changes to some of the standard format to koi shows. And I like I didn't get to go there, but at the Scotland Koi Show, I liked and I saw what they did, and that was quite risky and groundbreaking. But I think it's definitely the way to go, or go not necessarily all the way with all the different aspects, but definitely trying one or two things along with the koi.
Try and incorporate it somewhere. Well, in fairness, the Holland Koi Show, they had a beta fish show. Do you know, like the Siamese fighter fish betas?
Oh, right.
Yeah, the Holland Koi Show, they had an events tent, and it was full of them, little square tanks, and there was racks of them, and they all had little certificates on and badges, and that was quite interesting. And in fairness, like Joe said, I would never get out of the bed to go to a beta fish show or a goldfish show, but if I was at a koi show and they went, there's a tent, there's a tent over there with these fancy goldfish and all betas, I'd go, well, I'll go and have a look at that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it adds to your day, I think.
You could do anything. You could do a little aquascape contest, get somebody to make a little waterfall, do a contest about who can make the coolest waterfall in a really small, set up
some of the big pond builders.
I'd love to do that for pond builders. I think pond builders just really love that stuff.
They encourage children, don't they? Key stage 1 to do a lot with water. In their play areas. Children love water, don't they? They love getting wet and muddy and dirty. So again, that idea there, Joe, that could be not necessarily targeted at adults, but maybe do something for the children, something where they can get dirty and muddy and build something. And
I've thought about it myself, to be honest. It's does the koi industry need an event like this that's maybe completely separated from a koi show, just a koi weekend with all businesses there, not for a koi show, but just genuinely that, say for instance, perhaps with seminars as well.
Yeah.
One thing we don't have at koi shows, but at every other event that I'll generally go to that's held in a hall, there's usually a stage with seats in front of it where people will give seminars. Whereas with koi, we don't have that. And I just wonder if, say, there was a seminar thing, I could ask Matt, right, come on and tell us about how to build a gravity-fed system or something like that, and you could do a little seminar and put something up on a screen. People, beginners, would love that. They might not know the difference between what a gravity system and a pump-fed system is, So I don't know. I just kind of wonder. Maybe in future I'll grow some balls and do it myself. But I'd like to see some koi shows like really try and just think a little bit outside the box. And that's not a challenge to say that they're not doing it. I know they're all volunteers, but I do think there's an opportunity to be grabbed at, especially at the moment with all the changes in the show scene stage. So yeah, interesting stuff.
Definitely to expand and because I mean we've looked at it as like again with the Great British Koi Show is like if you expand by more dealers then you're just diluting the business that's there and then it isn't good for everybody. So you've kind of got to look how would you expand without diluting what's already there. And like it's like these topics we touched on. And in fairness, I know Easy Pond has been down to the national and stuff like that. They fetch them their fiberglass units down. But in terms of pond builders and landscapes, there's no real representation at koi shows. I've never seen them, man.
Well, Craig Akahana Koi, I know he recently done a talk, didn't he, at Crouch Valley? I mean, Craig does that full time, not only does he sell koi, but he builds ponds. So you people like Craig and people like us, and there's a lot of dealers out there that obviously build ponds. Not everyone does. Yeah, you could, and I know I keep on about the South East or the All England. You said about seminars. They have had that in the past, pre-COVID. The back room where the judges go, I know they've had a few people. So Mark Davis is obviously there. Mark Davis will do a talk. So they have done that before. And they were quite popular as well.
See, that's before my time. This is the thing. I'm going at it from like somebody who's not been around for so long. So it might be interesting. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about some stuff, and maybe that might well be the case. But I do wonder. I mean, there'll be a lot of if there were more of these things happening. I wonder if we could target an audience who are more of a lower level in koi. Because it does feel to me like with the koi shows these days, you have to be like a real hardcore kind of like hobbyist to go to some of these things. Not all the time, but majority of the time you do.
It's not wrong, Joe, to say that. As I said, I touched on earlier, in any club, you have to be diverse. So for us, my rugby club that I was fortunate enough to help form, the club's now moved on. We're 11, 12 years down the line now, and I'll ask, I'll ask AGM and the committees. I said, well, it's your club. If that's what you want to do, I may not necessarily agree or want to vote on it, but it's your club. If that's what you want to do, I'll support you. Do you know what I mean? And that's the same principle with koi shows. Just because you weren't around then, and there's a few names that we could talk about that you won't even know about. You won't remember the forums. That works then. And obviously things evolve. So we need people like you and Will and all the other people that have maybe come into the hobby in the last 10, 15 years. I've been lucky enough to be in the hobby for nearly 30 years now. But I don't know everything. Maybe when I first got into the hobby, I was saying things and people were, give me a scowl look going, oh, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. Well, now, things have to evolve and change and be diverse. If you don't try new things, you don't know. So getting back to the koi shows, I know when the National tried last year, first time to do a koi show for dealers.
Yeah, the dealer show.
Yeah, I mean, there was a few of us that went into it. Personally, I don't think it necessarily worked for the general, dare I say, average dealer. But your primo dealers, and they. You can't compete with people like that.
Yeah.
But we still tried. I know a couple of people tried a couple of times. It was good fun, and hopefully that will evolve with. I mean, I do think that's definitely a way to go. One thing at a koi show that I think didn't necessarily work for me, but I think could work in the future if they tweaked it. Because as you know, Joe, out in Japan, the breeders, they show their koi.
Of course, I'm
of a growing feeling that we're not far away. Like, again, people are going to crucify me for saying this, but I don't think we're far away from being in a point where dealers and hobbyists are in the same show together, like combined. Like, to me, that is somewhat inevitable at some stage, and I can only see it as a positive thing for the industry in some regard. Because, I love the idea of hobbyist versus hobbyist, but somewhat it is still dealer versus dealer. So adding the dealers into the mix, but the koi is not under a hobbyist name, does it actually change that much? No, I don't think it really does.
I think some people are under the impression that dealers will fetch in certain fish to take certain awards, But I think what people forget is it's in a dealer's best interest for its customer to have the best fish because they're the ones buying the fish. So there is no reason why a dealer would want to sell their customers fish and then go and beat them. It's not in their best interest at all.
You're right there, Will. I mean, I know when we go to Japan and we take hobbyists, we always, again, I've learnt it from Ken, is you let the hobbyists have the first choice. That's what we do. So they have a look around. And a good friend of mine, Neil, that helps me out, he's been to Japan a couple of times. Last day, there was an amazing kajaku. I saw it. I thought, I like that. Neil committed to it, and he won best in overall size and variety at the Crouch, and also at the All England as well. So that's great. You know, he was there and he chose it, and he's won from it. So, but had he not got it, I would have got it.
Yeah.
So you are right though, Will.
Yeah. I just think in the All Japan works to an extent for the dealers in terms of, say, for instance, like if a dealer shows, oh, I've won this at the All Japan, to me that's like a big achievement for a dealer. So like in England, if a dealer brought along some fish and chucked them in a vat and won a major prize, I'd think, wow, that dealer's like buying in some of the best koi in the country. Like, I'm not saying that you can't do other like hobbyist awards as well, but I'd like to see competitions in which dealers could actually compete. And I know people are going to crucify me for that, but I just think that's like a sustainable way to do it. And for a dealer, it's good marketing. You know, all the fish in the vats could be for sale for the end of the weekend or whatever. You know, I can see that being a good way to do it. And I think it'd also increase the level of the koi shows in terms of competitiveness and everything else, and increase the amount of fish and make an overall better competition. So, yeah, be interesting to see what people write in the comments, because I'm sure I'm going to get, like I say, crucified.
But like, in fairness, the comment of will it up the level of koi? Definitely, of course it will. Do you know what I mean? That is for sure what happen.
But again, you put it out there, Joe. You're going to get some comments back. But again, it's back to the show committees, and obviously, Will's obviously, the Great British. You put these ideas to your committee and see what they say. You've got to try new things. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. And the koi clubs and koi shows have started adjusting, and they've got new people stepping into positions on committees, haven't they? Whereas the older people are maybe stepping down. Some come out of the hobby. Some unfortunately die. So you are getting new blood into the shows. So hopefully they'll have some. They've probably got better ideas than what we've got. Be nice to see some change though, for sure.
Yeah,
I think definitely expanding in other areas is one. I think it's got to happen sooner rather than later. But whether that is gardens or displays or pond builders building interactive displays or whatever it may be, but definitely a bigger representation for the actual garden side of a koi pond rather than just the fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Everything is definitely fish focused at the moment, which isn't a bad thing. But
you've got the clothing companies out there now, haven't you? That's sort of picked up, so you've got more variety now, and branded clothing, and obviously you can some clothing companies will do dealers clothing logos as well. I think that they've hit something well, haven't they? And they've done well with sort of two or three that are out there.
And I think last couple of years we had Greenwood bonsais, and I don't know about this year because I was a bit busy, but I know last year he did some live displays on how to trim bonsais and how to do different bits that'll benefit obviously bonsais, and he live streamed on YouTube as well as obviously in person at the Koi show. Did he do that this year as well, Joe? Or
I don't know, to be honest, mate.
I can't remember, but he definitely did last year, and I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah. I can't remember the bonsai grower. It was a lady up at the north of England. She was from Middlesbrough. She was next to us. She pretty much sold 3/4 of her stock on the Saturday. It was absolutely amazing.
Wow.
Definitely, people don't just go to look at fish or buy something fish. They are out there looking for other stuff. And as you say, with the bonsai, and as you both said, anything Japanese is the in thing at the moment, isn't it? So we've got to ride this wave with what everybody's doing out in the industry, whether it be doing garden shows and koi shows. We've got to keep diversifying, keep getting the information 100%. Out there, and
definitely,
and try and offer something for everybody.
So in the new year, then, Matt, you're off out back to Japan again, aren't you?
Yeah,
That's the most exciting time for you, isn't it?
I do try and go twice a year, but just got a lot on at the moment with work on whatnot, and just we're putting some new ponds in as well at our facility. So, yeah, it's just we got our sort of end of year sale this weekend and a little auction, working with Crouch Valley Koi Club on that, and then we've already started building one of our sales ponds. So we want to concentrate on getting our dealership and take it up to the next level. I've been talking about it for the last year or two. And the problem is the only downtime I get is more winter, but then I'm out in Japan. So, yeah, well, that's what we're looking to do. So come February, we're back out there. We're going out with my good friend Ken and Wilkie. Such a lovely man. He's taught me so much. And he always says to me, don't get carried away. And it's too easy, as you know, Joe.
It is.
Yeah.
Don't get carried away. So, yeah, we're back out there with Ken in February. So, yeah, really looking forward to that.
What one of the topics we should probably discuss, and this is not to mention about anybody who's out there currently. This is just an overall state of play in Japan, but it looks like chaos over there right now, doesn't it? I mean, it is crazy.
Some of the clips I've seen.
Not envious of anyone who's out there at the minute. Like, I love Japan, but I'm not sure I could love that side of it. To me, the magic is gone in some of the stuff that I'm seeing over there at the minute. I don't know where you guys will, probably.
I think I get what Joe's saying, but I think that's coming from a topic of events. I think from day to day, it's possibly not as mental as that, but I have seen some mental clips and photos of fish houses rammed with dealers and potentially a few hobbies as well.
The funny thing is the name event that is in and of itself kind of like part of the reason that I'm losing. It's not an event. It's not an event. We call that over here like a sales day, or like if it were a grow out event, or it was maybe an auction or something like that, that would be an event. This is a harvest that is now becoming a like. I don't know what I'm. People out there will know what I'm trying to say.
I know what you're trying to say. Maybe that's just their translation.
Yeah,
that's
possibly
the nearest word they've got to it. Because it's like when you read some of the messages and you translate it, whether it be on Facebook or something, you can read it and it sort of tells a story, but not how you'd say something. So maybe the word event is just basically their translation. I've never been out for a harvest this time of year. I have been out in October, and I have been out in November many a time. I've never actually gone around and drawn the lots. Something we do at our dealership when we do our growing shows, we try and make it as traditional as possible. But yeah, I've never been there, but you are right. I've been watching, a lot of the dealers are out there and watching videos and and the YouTubers and whatnot, and it does look chaotic. And how treacherous some of those breeders can be out there, with the thin wood walkways and whatnot. So it does look a bit scary, but good luck
There's
to them.
literally in some of them, they've got the toes hanging off the edge of the concrete next to like the ponds, and there's just people behind them. It looks like the Tube in London Rush Hour or something. Like it looks that kind of busy. But I am notorious for being a glass half empty kind of guy rather than a glass half full kind of guy. So I'll admit to being that. But to me, if there's that level of demand, surely the prices have got to be like going up as well. Like if there's that amount of people there, it'd be silly for the dealer to just charge what he did last year. But also, I kind of wonder if now the culture is with the breeders, it's kind of like, right, I've got my harvest. Let's ring everybody who's here and just get them there. And it's kind of like people get wind of X, Y, and Z's harvesting, and then I've just got this envisionment of like if you could probably watch all these dealers on Google Maps all driving up around the mountains and all converging on the same place at the same time. And personally, I've done Niigata once when it was very quiet, and then I've done the South where, as you know, Matt, you go, you make an appointment, you're generally like one of the only people there, and you can be really considered about the purchase. The idea of standing in front of a pond and having to draw a straw to maybe get my 12th pick out of the lot, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Not for me, that. Personally, that's the opinion of me, not the other two people here.
I do think there's something magic, though, about how the hobby's growing and how the hobby's becoming, and sort of seeing that many people from around the world congregating on one farm. A bit strange. Congregating on one farm, which is obviously just an evolvement of the hobby and how it's evolved.
And I think, as you're talking about these harvests and the amount of people there, that's why some of the bigger people like Izamiya and Donichi do the auction. I believe you haven't got everyone coming in. Obviously, you still can book and still go, but that's all down to the dealers' contacts and obviously their handler over there. I know when we go over there, our agent, he phones ahead, books ahead, and and if it might be that someone's done, one of the breeders has done a treatment, or they've got one of the other, it might be a European, it could be the South Africans there or whatever, and they'll go, no, it's a bit busy at the moment, we'll go back there tomorrow. So we don't experience that amount of people. The biggest group for us is we're there. You might get a couple of people turn up. So I've not experienced that to that degree, other than going to the All Japan. But then that's a koi show, so it's a little bit different. Well, it's hugely different. So it does look a bit hairy out there. So hats off to all the dealers out there. Fair play to them.
I'm sure that the people out there will find good koi. That's, I guess, not what I'm trying to say. And from what I understand, that all the fish are selling, that they're buying, and they're doing well. It's just, to me, it just doesn't resemble, I guess, what Japan means to me as well. Because the other thing is I suppose I look at it and I go, these guys are drawing straws on fish that are like 2 or 3 months' salary for me.
Yeah.
And that bit, again, that's kind of like hard for me to get my head around, is that it's kind of like going to Las Vegas and putting $3,000 in a slot machine. I just wouldn't do it because I'm a glass half empty kind of guy. And I think as koi gets more, and we've talked about it today with Japanese gardening, it's getting more and more popular. There's more and more koi dealers, more and more people buying koi, especially in the US and Asia and Germany and all these places that are seeing huge growth. So I think, it was just a matter of time until things like this came about. But I have to say, I'm looking forward to going down south and having a bit more of a relaxed take on Japan to that. And not to say that I don't want to experience it sometimes, because as I said on the last podcast, I actually quite like the bad side of Japan, and I like covering it because I actually find the intricacies about it all quite interesting, and how it all goes down. And look, in some of the videos, you'll see Ryuki Narita there, and he's participating in these events. So he must feel like he can still get value there, and he's like the top dog in Japan. So like, I'm not the type of guy to say Ryuki's wrong for being at this event. Like, absolutely not. It's just kind of like personal preference at that stage. So just something I thought was worth discussing, because it's definitely a trending topic at the minute, and seeing a lot of dealers and agents online saying this is out of control and crazy. So
I think what you're sort of commenting on is there is something quite rewarding about being not the only one there, but like one of maybe a few people on the farm, and being able to actually pick the breeder's brains about lineage, and then looking over ponds and going, you know what, can we bowl this one? He goes, yeah, of course. And then bowling this fish and actually being able to discuss a fish rather than just sort of saying, look, these are the fish, these are what they are. Your fourth pig. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think what Joe's trying to. There's more to it than just buying commercially trying to buy a fish. There's the actual lineage and like the information about the breeding, and also the thoughts of how the breeder will think that fish will develop and stuff like that.
100%.
I think that's what Joe's trying to touch on. As in,
I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
You're trying to say that hustle and bustle and that business is kind of missing that side of it.
Yeah.
But part of it, when I buy a koi, I know this is going to sound so corny, but when I buy a koi, I like to know which breeder it's come from. I want to do my research on it. I want to make like a really considered purchase. Whereas, it's almost like buying a piece of story, a piece of lineage, a piece of history. That koi's lineage has gone through maybe 1, 2, 3 generations of koi farmer to get to that point of what he thinks is a really good tosai or nisai. And so I want to buy into that and feel like I'm part of that story. But when I see kind of all the magic of that taken away, and it's drawing straws and that kind of stuff, the magic is gone, because it's less about. It's like Matt, I've seen you've been to breeders, you know, with pictures of you and the breeders and things and shaking hands. That to me is the magic of Japan,
and also going out to eat with them as well.
Yes, definitely.
It's amazing. You know, you take them out for lunch or evening meal. Sometimes they pay, sometimes we pay, and it's just great.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, it's, depending on the breeder. So, prime example, Izumia. Okay, you go to Izumia, you're not going to get any Nisai down, but we'll pop in. So our agent will go, can we pop into Izumia just so we can show people, where the water was uneven, from the earthquake, and just to go there and look at the big fish. And we'll go there and we'll go around, have a look in the ponds, and then we'll go and sit in there and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
with a breeder, and you're not spending any money, but they still show you hospitality.
Yeah,
and obviously they're talking Japanese with your agent, but you're sitting there, and there's a bit of interaction in English as well, which is fantastic. So that's what I love, and you might get them to sign your book, one of your koi books, and just little things like that. That makes it really special. And as you say, you get a picture taken with a breeder, and I love when I take hobbyists out for the first time, making sure they get a picture with every single breeder, especially with the thumbs up. It's great because it is a once in a lifetime experience, but people do go back more than once. So if they do only go once, if you can take them round and do what you're saying, Joe, then, if they're happy, I'm happy. You want them to, I try to say to people, I try and tell them the experience I have when I go there. I say, if you get half out of Japan what I get, then I'm happy. And touch wood, I haven't had, hobbyists say to me yet they haven't had a good time when they've been with us.
Yeah,
so that's what I hope I can maintain that as well.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, that's probably a really nice poetic way for us to end that podcast there. So I'm really thankful for Matt for giving up your evening today. I've really enjoyed the story. That story about the king, about Japan, talking about this stuff and koi shows. Yeah, really cool. So thank you for coming on, and thank you as always to Will for coming on. And
thank you, and thank you for Matt. It's nice to have a different opinion, and it's
nice.
it's
been a unique podcast,
definitely
a unique take on it. So
thank guys. I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope it hasn't come across. It's all about me, because that's definitely not what I hope
that's
it
the
hasn't.
Reason you're the special guest.
No, I'm just me. I'm just and I'm very proud. I'm from a council house. I'm extremely proud of my roots. And I'm no different to anybody else. And you know what? My dogs are going to be really, really happy because I heard was that your dog barking?
Yeah.
My dogs in the front. No, my dogs, they're not in this room because they're a little bit noisy. But no, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for all the listeners. And hopefully we'll bump into some of you guys sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Whether it be a koi show or wherever.
I'm going to have to make the time to come down. You're just literally at the other end of the country.
It's a bit long way to come though, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I need to come down at some stage. There's so many people down there that I need to come and see. So many ponds and stuff.
When we go north of the Dartford crossing, we always get nosebleeds.
Well, to be fair, that Chelsea Flower Show is sounding interesting. I might have to try and make the effort next year. I know.
Well, look, if things go the way they should for next year, it's all up in the air at the moment. If it does happen, what we should be having, it's not going to be koi related. I will say that.
Fair enough.
But if it does happen next year, I'll try and get a couple of invites for you two and Dave to come down and do a little do something on the RHS Chelsea 2026. If it all happens, and then that way, your listeners and viewers can see a little bit of Chelsea more than what you see obviously on the BBC.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. So we might be doing a live podcast from
from the RH.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the BBC would say about that, but we'll.
You can, as long as you go through the media thing. There is things you can do with the BBC.
Fair enough. Koi going mainstream.
Cheers,
That's been brilliant. So we'll see you next week on the Koi Perspective podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Take care. Thank you. Bye now.